want to give me that seat?
I didn't feel that I was being treated as a human being. I refused to give up the seat. I said no, and I wouldn't give it up.
On the 5th of December, 1955, fine, dignified, disciplined, courageous seamstress from this community was sitting down on a bus. Sister Rosa Parks, with dignity and discipline, said in substance that the cup of endurance has run over. I can take it no longer. Martin Luther, back in the 16th century, who said, "Here I stand and I can do none other, so help me God." It was Rosa Parks who on the 1st of December said, "Here I sit and I can do none other, so help me God."
I was called in February, I think, January, February of 1960. I noticed right away the signs, colored, white, all over the place, in the restaurants, Brookside, everywhere. When I finally got here in May, the paper called and wanted me to bring down a bio of some kind. They could do an article. And I remember I went down and walked in. As I was walking into the paper, a black man opened the door for me, an old man, and said, "Good morning, Massa." And I nearly died. Of course, Tulsa, I found out, very cosmopolitan. It had Deep South, Middle West, Southwest, International, all mixed together in this place. Took me a while to figure that out. But there was certainly Deep South. There was Deep South in the congregation.
Now I want you to tell me, brother, what you're gonna do about the old Jim Crow. Now, if you was white, you'd be all right.
And they were going to go over there and sit in, and they said, "Well, you have to go with us. You're the new minister." But we went over. As a matter of fact, we went over a couple of times, and we sat in with the congregations and the black churches. Went out and picketed and stuff. And I knew we were going to be in for something. It was the development of that group of ministers, the bonding of these ministers, who pretty well took the forefront in the community and issues, so that when this public schools ordinance came up, we were pretty well bonded. And on one occasion, the superintendent of schools said, "Well, I don't understand what integration means." And I said to this congregation in my sermon, "Well, any superintendent of schools that doesn't know what the word integration means is incompetent and ought to be fired." That appeared in the front page of the Tulsa World the next day. A big thing happened. A committee formed, not only in the church, but in the community. And as an upshot of it is, Dr. Mason did retire, and he resigned. When Selma came along, that was in the spring of 1965, and James Reeb, a Unitarian minister from Boston, was one of the ones killed there. Some of these same ministers that I was telling you about, we happened to be meeting at the church, and somebody said, "Well, what are we going to do? Will we go to Selma?" Because that's what everybody was doing. And I think it was Clarence, I can't remember for sure, and Clarence Kniffus said, "Well, this town needs a march a lot worse than Selma does." So little by little, we decided we'd stay here and organize some kind of a service and memorial for James Reeb, but also to let them know that where the religious community stood on these matters. And so there was a service held in this church, in All Souls. Somebody said there was about 700 people. Boy, there was more than that, maybe a couple of thousand people. The sanctuary was absolutely full. Emerson Hall was full. People under the parking lot. 50 clergy from Tulsa were the ushers. We adjourned here and went down to Holy Family and started the march from Holy Family to the old post office, the old Federal Building. And a lot of other people joined us then. These things were all not roses at All Souls. Part of this congregation was very, very Old South and very, very happy with the way things were. And most of those people left the church. This congregation took a real shaking up. One of my colleagues paid us the greatest compliment. He said, All Souls is the conscience of Tulsa. I think this church had a sense of that. It felt that about itself. We have a true mission, not in a missionary sense, but a true mission. Here we are. You mess around with the freedoms in this town, and you're going to hear from us. The whole civil rights movement, and of course the nonviolent protest was a part of all these things, which formed the moral authority for us, certainly, and for everybody.